Welcome to Locked On Golden Knights. Paul Cotter with the game winner, and Logan Thompson had a 25-save shutout last night as the Golden Knights defeated Chicago 1-0.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco along with Chris Golick. You could find us on Twitter at Tony Dasco, at TDChrisG, at Locked On VGK. That's all on Twitter. And make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On VGK. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Chris, so last night, pretty much a sloppy win for VGK. But you can say that VGK prevails and bailed out by Logan Thompson. Start there, stopping 25 shots to secure the 1-0 shutout. The only goal by Paul Cotter on a 2-on-1 break. Give us your takeaways. You were there at the game last night.
Yeah, so underwhelming is a word to use as far as the game top to bottom. Let's start with the positive here, right? Logan Thompson shutout game one at season 6, right? You know, goaltending is our asterisk. That's the one thing, Tony, we have said how many times we are concerned about. So let's be happy about that. Our biggest concern last night, at least in game number 2 of the season, was our biggest strength. So that's a very good takeaway. I thought Paul Cotter had a very solid game, not just because of the goal that he scored, but just top to bottom. Paul Cotter seemed like he was a difference maker out there. A couple different opportunities where, I mean, he had one chance before, was it after? Might have been after. But another basically 2-on-1 rush where he had an opportunity. And it seemed like he was the one person out there that was trying to take control of the game in this one.
Yeah, and when you talk about Cotter, that goal, that was the only offense, as we mentioned, 1-0. So Cotter comes out of the box. He was in there for that hooking penalty, comes out of the box shortly thereafter, breaks out, receives that stretch pass from Zach Whitecloud, and that spearheaded the 2-on-1. What was so impressive there was that he had Riley Smith on his left, well, at least as we saw it on TV. So I don't know which side of the arena you were on, but Riley Smith was on his left, and he used him more or less as a decoy. And he kind of glanced over there once, and they hung out to dry the defenseman. I think it was Caleb Jones. Caleb Jones was back defensively for the Chicago Blackhawks. That look-off, that was a veteran move.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. They talked about that in the post game on the way home. I can't remember which gentleman pointed out. It was either Ryan, the hockey guy, or Dan Duva, the voice of the Golden Knights. But they said that a lot of times when you have a youngster in that situation, it's you and a veteran who certainly knows how to finish, and Riley Smith has scored a goal or two. More times than not, the younger player will default to making the pass because that's the safer play. That's the play that doesn't maybe get you questioned as much in the locker room. And the fact that Cotter, for lack of a better term, had the stones, not Mark Stones, but stones. He had the stones to take that shot. And I mean, it was a beautiful shot. He just ripped it. I mean, that's the type of shot that deserves the celebration that he gave. Yeah, so Cotter, he's going to be a difference maker. He's going to be trouble early. And, you know, I did think he was going to be able to push people around on the fourth line as far as Carrier and Kolesar possibly losing some ice time because of Cotter. But game 2, he pushed Amadio out of the lineup. Now, let's not take shots at Amadio here. That's not the point of this. But, you know, Cassidy is going to be making moves, not afraid to keep players in the lineup. And that bottom 6 is, and even the top 6. I mean, Marchie is already on line 3. You know, he wasn't penalized to be put on line 3, but Marchie is on line 3. So let's give Cassidy some credit for spinning the dials here and having the stones, if you will, to make a big lineup change game 2.
Yeah, and I think the big difference for Chicago last night, obviously, was the goaltending as well.
Oh God,
Alex Stalock, his second appearance in 26 months in the National Hockey League, and he looked like a veteran out there. Partially, a lot of the credit goes to him, but VGK should have scored more goals, many more goals. McNabb missed a couple of shots inside. Kolasar missed an empty net.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought
Just
that up, Tony. I'm so glad you brought
in
Colasar up.
abundance. They missed a lot of empty nets right there, point blank.
So, and again, shout out to my day one friends that have been behind us in 217 row Q. Gotten to know their family. They're just crazy. Last 6 years, how much their daughter's grown and stuff, and it's just awesome to have those relationships with the people around you, being a season ticket holder. And so we joke. I mean, for lack of a better term, we make fun of Keegan Kolasar, not him as a person, but his finishing ability. There's times I will literally have my head down. If Kolasar has a breakaway, I'll just have my head down, shaking my head. I can hear my friends behind me just laughing as it's happening. So sure as a word I'm not going to say, but the first big chance of the game was Kolasar. I thought it was going to be a goal, and I see what happened. I see the miss, and I couldn't see in real time exactly what happened, but then it clicked instantly that Kolasar was the one who foobarred that chance. I turn around, I just do this. I say Kolasar, and I start getting chirped, Tony. There's a chirped. I got chirped. There's a couple people that sit right next to him. I put this on our Locked On Twitter account last night, but they were.
What happened?
So the guy looked at me and said, "You wait, you wait, you wait." He wasn't trying to fight me, nothing like that. But you wait, you wait and see what Kolasar is going to do. Come February, you wait. And I looked at him and said, "Listen, I like Kolasar, but that wasn't good." And I got the read as the game went on. They're either friends or I don't think if they're family of Keegan Kolasar, this is Kolasar. I don't know if you're listening to right now, but if the best you can do for friends and family is 217 row R, you got to negotiate a better deal here. You got paid this offseason. I know VGK prices have gone up, but I know you can do better than 217 row R for your friends and family. It was fun though. Because I've also been very high on Kolasar. I've pointed out my one stat that no one else in the world ever says. He was 4th in scoring amongst those in top 10 in the league in hits. But I had another very pleasant conversation with someone on Facebook. We're going back about 2 months ago. I gave my take on Keegan Kolasar. Keegan Kolasar is our topic on day one after a huge VGK win. This is great, by the way, folks. But if you're still watching, God bless you. But
the WTF segment isn't until later.
That's okay. 3. Let's keep going. I'm on a roll, Tony. I'm on a roll.
Yeah, you are.
So someone hits me on Facebook when I gave him that stat line. They're like, yeah, but he's underwhelming. He's not the type of player that maybe plays up to his statistics and stuff like that. It's a fair statement. And listen, Keegan Kolasar, I think, is going to be just fine this season. But those, in a serious note, that's the one thing that he really needs to elevate in his game is his finishing ability, because he can hit, he can play defense, he can put up some points for a top 10 hitter. This is the part of his game, especially those layups. That was a layup, right, Tony? That was a layup that he missed last night, all kidding aside. And that could be the difference maker of that game going to overtime last night and us talking about an underwhelming game where we left a point on the table.
Okay, another thing I think that Cassidy was upset about was the inability to score in the empty net. My goodness, he was fired up.
It was funny.
Game. Yeah, and then too, you're talking about the fourth line. The top line did not play very well, not good production wise. And at one point, as I was watching the game here, I saw where Marchessault was moved to the top line, and Kessel switched with him and went on the third line in that game last night.
I didn't catch the line change. I was kind of watching, but I was trying to enjoy the game more as a fan versus
chirping at Kolasar's friends.
Yeah, great. And me and this gentleman, we talked later in the game. I actually looked at him and said, "Hey, I don't hate on Kolasar. I want you to think that, And he's actually, I think, Chicago. He asked me if I was a White Sox or a Cub fan. Immediately, I snapped and said White Sox. And he looked at me and shook his head. So me and this guy, we're off to a bad start, Tony. We're off to a bad start. But if I could afford a beer next time I see him, I'll buy him one. But it's what the Friday segment 3. So I'm going to stop talking about that right now. But the one thing that I was looking for in this game was someone to take control. This was the type of game, and I'm not just pointing at Jack Eichel right now by any means. This is the type of game where I think you needed one player to expose a weekend. I say weekend like they just played last night, got their butts kicked by Colorado, and expose a weak and fatigued Chicago Blackhawks team. Yeah, they played a good game. Let's not take anything away from the Blackhawks.
They played better in the neutral zone than I imagined as
so,
well.
And here's something else, Tony. You mentioned the Blackhawks lost 5-2, I believe, to Colorado on Wednesday night.
It was 5-2.
How many power play goals did Colorado get?
4.
Okay. So the Blackhawks aren't that bad, at least through 2 games. They're not that bad of a 5-on-5 team, Tony, right? I mean, we can draw a conclusion to that. It's early, but, so the Blackhawks, maybe they're not a complete dumpster fire. They're going to be a fire of some sort, maybe not a complete dumpster fire, at least not in the early stages. But back to my point, someone needs to take over a game like this. It could be Eichel, and Paul Cotter was the man last night, as Logan Thompson was, but someone else to just control this game that would have been really hard to defend against. And I didn't see that last night. The positive I did see is VGK on the attacking side of the neutral zone, very well with the stretch passes early on, created a lot of opportunities, but their protection of the neutral zone also was not very good at times. Chicago did have a lot of breakaways where they had a player staged right in front of the VGK bench, wide open. You would think someone on the bench would be yelling, and I don't know how that communication happens, but there was a couple of times, and this is the one thing that Cassidy did allude to many times, is their defensive system was going to protect the neutral zone more and not allow as many odd man rushes, or in last night's case, breakaways. And, that was a failure last night. Call it what it is.
Yeah. And with those stretch passes for VGK, there was a couple of times in the third period, I believe, where Mark Stone, they just kept feeding him with these long passes, into the zone. And I thought that was kind of funny in that, VGK was able to execute that. And then defensively, though, when they needed to, I think VGK buckled up. There was a 12-minute span in the game in which Chicago didn't have a shot on goal. And then I think in the second period, it was 10-0 shots on goal in the final 8 minutes and 22 seconds. And so they did play well at times defensively. Why do they have issues against Chicago, against the Blackhawks? The Blackhawks weren't great last season. They won the season series against VGK. And they just always seem to play their Super Bowl games, if you will, against the Golden Knights.
I mean, seasons 1-3 or 1-4, we own the Blackhawks. Last season, the series was 2-1, but the one we got, Tony, if you recall, we were down 3-0, and
Nothing.
Good old Dadonov had to save the day for us in overtime in that game, and a super fun, exciting game. And the Blackhawks, there's not much hope right now. They know that in the locker room. I'm not saying there wasn't effort, and there's not going to be effort throughout the year, but I think the cliff is going to come pretty quickly for the Blackhawks as far as when things are going to start turning pretty bad. I mean, they're already 0-2, right? They're already 0-2, and at least there's hope right now at the stage of the game. At least there's hope. They're only 2 games into the season. Once game 24, 25, 26 comes, efforts like last night will be much fewer and farther between. Mark Stone had some good moments last night. I felt Mark Stone was attacking a lot. There were some times where Mark Stone seems like a pass first type player when he's, not in the attacking area, but when he's, kind of in that area outside of the face-off circle between the blue line. And there was a few times I saw he was attacking. Chandler Stevenson buzzed around the net a lot. Jack Eichel, he had his moments where he would take the puck, go behind, do this, do that. I thought their power play was still at time kind of not clicking yet. The breakout, I don't like this power play breakout that Cassidy has. I get what he's trying to get the players to do, and it's more of an attack and more of a blitz, if you will. But I much prefer what the Blackhawks were doing, and what the Golden Knights used to do was utilize, that drop pass at around the blue line or the center line to someone that has a full head of steam, and then they either carry the puck right in themselves or make a pass that, when you have a player coming in as fast using the old entry, you have to protect against that player crossing the blue line in a give and go and stuff, which brings the other team's defense back closer to the net. Whereas what they're doing now, it seems like the other team's killers, penalty killers, that is, are actually being more aggressive in this style. And we're having a hard time getting that entry going right now. We're doing okay if we win the faceoff in the low zone, but once that first clear comes, I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far.
And VGK also, defensively, while we're at it, I think they have to do a better job of keeping players off of their goaltender, off of Logan Thompson. Lafferty had that hit on him. He was called for goalie interference, I think, right? And Blackwell,
Yes.
is that his name? Yeah, he was there. There was like 3 or 4 occasions where they ran into Logan Thompson, and that never would have happened on Ryan Reeves' watch. Just had to get that in
Yeah,
there.
come on, Cole, sir.
Okay,
Go ahead.
let's go to break, yeah, and then we'll come back and talk about Seattle. We're way behind with our time this morning,
That's fine.
and we'll be back with more. We will talk to VGK. We'll talk about VGK traveling to Seattle on Saturday night. They've got Seattle and Calgary in this upcoming road swing. Back with more of this Locked On Golden Knights. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for football betting information this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on each and every game that you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn much more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Our podcast free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On VGK. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. It's Friday. You can tell that there's a little pep in my step, right? VGK travels to Seattle. They meet the Kraken tomorrow night, Chris. Seattle is 1-1. The loss in overtime in Anaheim, and they beat the Kings last night 4-1. So they're in second place behind VGK currently with 3 points. And when you look at this Seattle team, they have a much better. I watched some of the game last night, and it ended in fisticuffs at the end. The emotion spilled over there, and they got into it at the end of the game. And even quick, the goaltender for the Kings skated down ice, and it was almost going to be a big fracas. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. They play again, but a better roster than last season. I think we can start there. Offensively, Ron Francis signing Andre Barkovsky from Colorado from the Avalanche, and they also got Oliver Bjorkstrand from CBJ. And this is a team now that they just play gritty and they play hard. And last night, I mean, they pretty much owned the Kings. The Kings really couldn't get into any sort of a flow. They played well defensively. I like the way they were skating up and down the ice. And they even got some pretty decent goaltending. They had back-to-back games with Martin Jones. Martin Jones was in net in that game. So, it's going to be a tough game, I believe, up there at Seattle in the Emerald City. And this is a team, I don't think Seattle's never beaten VGK, right?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever beaten the Golden Knights. So I think it was 3-0 in the series in their inaugural season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And probably 4 games, right? 2-2, I think. But either way, I think we swept Seattle. So this is definitely not last year's Seattle, not your grandmother's Seattle Kraken, if that even makes sense. I don't know how to say that, but Seattle has made some moves, and I mean, there's models out there, models being simulations and stuff like that, and predictions that I've seen Seattle as high as I think 3rd place in the Pacific, and it's fair. I mean, anything can happen throughout the season. Our window for VGK, as far as their finishing spot, they could win the division. They could be 6th place and not be competitive, and I can make a case for each side of that. So the same does go for Seattle, as they have some veterans. They've improved in a lot of places. They have young talent that's already developing in the pipeline. The one interesting thing I did take out of last night's press conference with Cassidy is I think Adin Hill does make his debut tomorrow. So Cassidy made the comments, Logan knew he was going games 1 and 2. He said that verbatim in his presser last night. Does that mean he's not going game 3? Not necessarily, but when I hear Logan knows he's going games 1 and 2, I hear Adin Hill's going game 3. That is exactly what I hear. I think Cassidy wants to get Adin Hill involved. And I think he even went a step farther in some other conversations, saying it doesn't necessarily, the performance is not going to necessarily indicate if you're going to keep your spot in the lineup necessarily. He doesn't want to penalize players who, just fail that one time, but he also wants to keep things moving along a little bit, which might explain the Amadio move last night to have him scratched in favor of Paul Cotter. So I do think there is a script here, kind of like football. The first 9 or 10 games, 9 or 10 plays of the game are scripted. I think there is a plan for the first maybe 5, 6, 7 games for a fixed goalie rotation. Now, if Adin Hill struggles in Seattle and we lose 5-1, you can probably throw that script out the window, I think. But for now, I think Adin Hill is going to go tomorrow night and try to keep VGK 3-0.
Yeah, and I did read a lot about what Coach Cassidy had said. Said that he has a schedule for the first month of the season, and so he said he will try to stick to that. He also said that interestingly enough, that Laurent Brossoit might figure in the mix as well. And yeah, what he said also about, okay, if you go out there and you stink, we're not going to hold it against you. We're just going to clean some things up, and it's not going to hurt you in the rotation, which I also found, pretty interesting. And they'll go up against Philip Grubauer because Grubauer had the night off last night. An up and down season in his first year, but he didn't have much defense in front of him. I think they've kind of fixed a lot of that. He had 55 starts last season, did Philip Grubauer. And you talked about young talent. Matty Beniers, oh my goodness, that guy's got a huge upside. Played in 10 games, I think, at the end of last season, scored a goal in each preseason game this year. And they just let him go. Like, he made some bad plays last night that I saw, and they just keep him out there, just keep buzzing. And they try to, just make him improve. And then Shane Wright, who was the number 4 overall pick. Mm-hmm. But this is a team that has struggled mightily against the Pacific Division, and perhaps things are changing in Seattle. They were 6-20 against the Pacific Division last year, and as we saw now, they're 1-1. And at home, they were 7-5, Chris, in their last 12 games at home. So things might sort of be coming together there. One thing to watch out for: the power play. Special teams will be a big factor in this game. In the opener against Anaheim, Seattle had 3 power play goals. So this is going to be an important game, I think, for VGK to see where they're at in special teams. Agreed?
No doubt about that. And special teams against the Kings, not too bad, right? We noted 1 power play goal, one right as the power play expired. Last night, nothing on the power play, but also took care of home, on the penalty kill. The one thing about Seattle, I guess I'll point out, is Seattle is doing what I think what people thought VGK might do, which was not have a very good first season, but they also didn't trade away a lot of their young assets to improve their team down the stretch, which VGK, did make some very notable moves as they were trying to compete for a Stanley Cup in season number 1. So this is more of what watching Seattle now is what we thought we would be watching in Vegas for a while. And I guess I'll be curious to see if we compare season 6 VGK to season 6 Seattle down the road, where those teams are. And that might be an interesting off-season type show, Tony. We pick a timeline at the end of each year, compare, 1 year down the road, I guess, to see where they are.
Yeah, but Ron Francis has done a pretty good job. I think that they had, again, last season, they kind of just figured things out more or less, but they have a plan. They definitely had a plan. And then, with those additions, I think Burakovsky, you could see a noticeable difference there. Oliver Bjorkstrand, from Columbus, those 2 players are standouts, and I think they've got a big upside. I really do. And it's prediction time before we go into WTF, What the Friday. So do you have a prediction on Saturday night's game? Last night, we got blasted, by the way, because we thought it was going to be a high-scoring game last night. It was 1-0 game. Some guy just took us to task. He goes, "You said they were going to score 6 goals." Okay, that's me. I'm accountable. And they had at least 6 open nets, shots on open nets last night. Plus the end of the game, empty net goal they should have had.
A shout out, as I was really fast, and the jersey's not up there right now, folks, because it's got to go in the washing machine. The Blackhawks jersey is not there right now. But as I was going up the stairs, got recognized by a listener. Forgive me, I never got a chance to get your name, but we had a little quick, pleasant interaction, and a couple other people out there did, take a moment to say hello to me last night in the stands and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun to see. As far as tomorrow night's prediction, let's go 5-5 going to overtime, and Marchessault nets the game winner with 2 seconds left on the clock.
I'm going to go 4-3 Seattle. They're going to start throwing things at me.
They're going to throw things at you in about 5 minutes anyway, Tony. But
anyway, okay, coming up next, the much-awaited WTF What the Friday. We'll be back with more after this on Locked On Golden Knights. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Chris was at last night's game. Great observations. We really appreciate everything that you do on the show, as well as he handles the YouTube channel. So please subscribe. Chris has to save up for another jersey for that back wall. And thanks for making us your first listen every day. Our podcast free and available wherever you get your podcast. What the Friday? We are ready. It is on. You can go first. Do you want to?
So
it's got to be about Colasar.
No, I'm not chirping in any fans. No, I'm ending the way I started the week. So when you go to the movie theater, folks, right? You see the small popcorn, the medium popcorn, then this huge, majestic tub of popcorn. Huge, huge, huge. And that's the one they want you to buy because it's actually more advantageous for the movie theater company. And that's the way they do that. So where I'm going with this is I mentioned on Monday, they charge $15 at the Dollar Loan Center for a box of popcorn, what I would consider to be the medium size at the movie theater. They charge $15. At T-Mobile Arena for that majestic, magnificent, huge tub of popcorn, it's $8.75. Let's go a step farther. The chicken fingers at T-Mobile Arena are $14.50, which is 50 cents cheaper than a medium box of popcorn at the Dollar Loan Center. So what the WT, I want to say it, but I don't because I'll get yelled at by Sean. But what the Friday, what the Monday, what the every dang day there is a game at the Dollar Loan Center. Why are we charging 15? And I'll be at Dollar Loan Center tonight. I hope I can retract this statement. I hope they fixed it. They can say there was a problem with they can say technical difficulties. Someone clicked the wrong button and the price was wrong day one. Fine. I don't care. But if I go there and see a $15 price for popcorn, I will be on the Locked On Twitter handle tonight at the Dollar Loan Center. Shout out the Henderson Silver Knights open their third season tonight at the Dollar Loan Center against the Tucson Roadrunners. Silver carpet festivities around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. You can catch them out front on the tilt yard there and see the players walking the silver carpet as they get ready for their inaugural matchup tonight against the Tucson Roadrunners.
Are you going to get one of those big turkey legs that they're selling tonight?
No,
that'll be about $20. Give us.
No, it's going to be cheaper than the popcorn, Tony. If that's cheaper than the popcorn, I'm going to dip a turkey leg into popcorn and twist it and eat it like that. What do you think?
I'm down for that. Just post it, man. We need some. We're here for the clout. We're here for the clout.
It sounds terrible.
Okay, so what the Friday? Why did VGK players have to go through all these ceremonies and pomp and
here we go.
The gold carpet and waiting for intros, all that. I think by the time the game started, I'm not going to lie, I thought that they were tired. And, Bruce Cassidy had talked about all these distractions at home. And, I just think that they had to go out on the red carpet and do some modeling and show off their latest suits and fashion and all that. And then again, the distractions at home with wives and kids, girlfriends, mistresses, what have you. And they don't have to go through all that. All right. It's the home opener. It's not like they're having a celebration of raising a banner or hoisting the Stanley Cup. It's the opening game, folks. And I thought that the players showed that they were pretty tired and worn out by the time the game started. Again, enough of these celebrations and ceremonies and mistresses and all that. That's my WTF.
Mistresses, what the?
I just had to throw that in there.
All right, so Tony's gonna do this. So I'm firing right back at Tony. I think I'm also gonna fire another shot at Tony here. So this is kind of a WTF, but this is more. I tweeted for my personal accounts, and I tweeted our good friend, I hit our good friend Joe Rigo from Franchise Sports Media, who actually shout out to Joe is the one who connected me and Tony. So if it wasn't for Joe doing this, my magnificent. Never mind, we're not gonna say anything about that. But I did say. I said, Tony, look, people having fun. What do you think is a fun night for Tony? So I said, I'll start by he enjoys giving candy corn on Halloween to the trick-or-treaters, fully knowing no kid likes candy corn. And then ROBB, nah, he's the kind of dude that hands out toothbrushes, talking about you'll thank me later when your teeth don't routes. We're not going to talk about that one. That's not a good one.
There were some other ones in there that were bad.
Let's see. That one. That's. Okay.
I'm going to tell you what my approach
Go on,
is.
wait. On
I
Joe
don't even
Rigo.
answer. I'm not. I stay out and I bet on sports, a basketball game in a sports book. That's what I do. I'm not even at home on Halloween.
I got one more, and then it's yours. Joe Rigo jumps on. He gives out scratched CDs of Ace of Base that he signed and said it was them. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that is so awesome. I love that. Thank you, Joe. Shout out to Joe Rigo for, I guess, making all this happen. I guess on a very serious note, I used to write with Franchise Sports Media. Just the time for that, just kind of my personal schedule got in the middle of that for a while there. And so now we're here. And I couldn't be happier to be blasting my co-host 3 times a week on Locked On Golden Knights.
Gotta have fun. That's your fun. I have my sort of fun, which is below the radar, way below. But last night, my WTF, this was something I caught on Twitter, and a couple of scribes from Chicago just put out some notes. And Mark Lazarus said that it seems deliberate that Vegas is using the Blackhawks secondary logo on the ice and the scoreboard. He said, I know half of you don't want to have that discussion, but it's going to happen more and more. And then Ben Pope also said from Chicago, from the news media, he said that Vegas has always used, and something that I never noticed, has always used the Blackhawks alternate logo at T-Mobile. He said his understanding is that because the night mascot stabs the opposing team's logo in the pregame, and they didn't want it to look like he's killing a Native American. I'll leave it there. Just WTF. I don't have anything else to say about that. But that secondary logo that was on the ice, what does that quite look like? I can't really describe it. But the primary logo is the Native American, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's the Indian head, and it's been the logo since day one. And yeah, I mean, listen, if VGK is being that careful, was that gentleman knocking?
No, they weren't blasting it. No, it was
okay.
I was just kind of the thought that went into.
Then that's a great observation. I mean,
seeing that. Yeah,
that's a great observation.
WTF, and that was just something out of the blue that I did not expect.
I mean, we should be stabbing people in pregame.
We've got Razor Wolf at Razor Wolf on Twitter. WTF is up with VGK always making games harder on themselves. Amen. That is a huge WTF. Should not have been that close last night. We got chirped at, speaking of chirping, by our good friends at Locked On Sharks last night. I don't know if you noticed.
No, you're going to kill my vibe, whatever.
But the real Mr. Hoot said, Stalock was VGK Locked On dude, a Sharks fan. So he doesn't understand how every team steps up to play us. And that's what he said. Teams go to play the Sharks there, and it's their day off. Oh, the day off, he said. Stalock had a hell of a game, especially like the toughness factor. Love a goalie who chirps back to other teams. And that is a good WTF. And we got railed a little bit by them. Matt Jackson, the 21 on Twitter, said, why the F, it's supposed to be, what the F, is the power play still bad?
Let's not listen. And Tony, you make all the hoopla and stuff that goes into opening night. Yes, there could be some type of something behind your statement about the team being a little tired last night. It is a reasonable observation to make. Is the power play still bad? Let's not go that far. It's game two. They're 1 for 6 already on the season. You can put an asterisk next to a goal that they should have had as well, as far as right as time expired. So let's not go that far. The Blackhawks, like I said, they will never be closer to a playoff spot than they are right now. Right. And as sad as that sounds, they'll never be closer to a playoff spot than they are right now. So you got a lot of energy out there. You got players that are trying to get traded also, because the Blackhawks will have the sale of fire sales starting about in November with Kane, Taves, if they can ship Seth Jones somewhere and get that contract out of there. Max Domi, even same thing, right? If they can ship out those older players to cup contenders, they're going to. And they might even take some house-friendly deals on the Blackhawks side, that is, to rid themselves of not necessarily Kane and Taves, but their second tier of talent. So let's listen. I know I was a little tough on our beloved Golden Knights in the first segment, probably harder than Tony is on a regular basis. But that game was what it was. It was a 1-0 winner. Let's be happy about that. And if VGK can only go up from last night's game, we're in a good spot. I said this morning just to one of our listeners. I'm okay with looking bad and winning a game like this versus looking good and not winning the game. I'm okay with that in game 2 of the season.
I've got another WTF that just came to mind.
Yes.
In watching and listening, the ice conditions, they just kind of slide it into their broadcast. What was the ice like last night? Because they hinted at it not being good. And I think they asked Logan Thompson, they asked someone during one of those intermission breaks about the ice conditions. And then they were railing against the ice conditions in LA the other night. Enough of that. Both teams have to play on the same stinking ice. But how was the ice last night? We've got about a minute and change to go.
Okay, I'll make it real quick. The ice was fun.
This is ridiculous. What, I don't know. Whenever things go bad around here, they always point to the ice and the ice conditions.
The ice was great last night. There was no issues. You didn't see the ice crew having to go out there for unscheduled repairs. The ice was fine. Warm-ups, it was fine. I did see Murphy for the Blackhawks leave during the pregame skates. Something happened, but he was out there. So the ice was fine.
Slipped on the ice. That's what happened.
It's slippery, folks.
We'll be back again on Monday. We thank you all for tuning in. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On VGK. We'll see you again Monday right here on Locked On Golden Knights.